Welcome to Icse 10th Class Chemistry Important Definitions module. What is vapor density? Vapor density is defined as the ratio between the masses of equal volumes of gas, or vapor, and hydrogen under the same conditions of temperature and pressure. What is molar volume? The molar volume of a gas is the volume occupied by 1 gram molecular mass or by 1 mole of the gas at STP. It is equal to 22.4 dm3. What is relative atomic mass? The relative atomic mass of an element is the number of times one atom of the element is heavier than 1/12 times of the mass of an atom of carbon, 12. What is relative molecular mass? The relative molecular mass of an element or a compound is the number that represents how many times one molecule of the substance is heavier than 1/12 th of the mass of an atom of carbon, 12. What is Avogadro's number? Avogadro's number is defined as the number of atoms present in 12 gram atomic mass of C12 isotope, i.e. 6.022 x 1023 atoms. What is gram atom of an element? The quantity of the element which weighs equal to its gram atomic mass is called 1 gram atom of that element. What is a mole? A mole is the amount of pure substance containing the same number of chemical units as there are atoms in exactly 12 grams of carbon, 12. What is stoichiometry? Stoichiometry measures quantitative relationships and is used to determine the amount of products/reactants that are produced/needed in a given reaction. Describing the quantitative relationships among substances as they participate in chemical reactions is known as reaction stoichiometry. What is atomicity? Atomicity is the number of atoms in a molecule of an element. What is empirical formula of a compound? The empirical formula of a compound is the simplest formula, which gives the simplest ratio in whole numbers of atoms of different elements present in one molecule of the compound. What is molecular formula of a compound? The molecular formula of a compound denotes the actual number of atoms of different elements present in one molecule of a compound. What is an ore? Ores are those minerals from which metals are extracted commercially at a comparatively lower cost with minimum efforts. What are gangue? The earthly impurities like soil, mud, sand, silica, SiO2, limestone, rocks, etc. that are mixed with valuable minerals in an ore deposit are called gangue or matrix. What is hydrolytic method in metallurgy? The difference in the densities of the ore and the gangue is the main criterion. What is froth flotation process? The process depends on the preferential wettability of the ore with oil, pine oil, and the gangue particles by water. What is calcination? If an ore is carbonate or a hydrated oxide, it is heated in the absence of air to a temperature that is high but insufficient to melt the ore. The process is known as calcination. What is roasting? It is the process of heating the concentrated ore to a high temperature in the presence of excess air. What is electrolysis? It is the process of decomposition of a chemical compound in aqueous solution or in molten state accompanied by a chemical change using direct electric current. What is non-electrolyte? It is a compound which neither in solution nor in the molten state allows an electric current to pass through it. What are cation and anion? Cation. Ions carrying positive charge are called cations. Anion. Ions carrying negative charge are called anions. What is a weak electrolyte? Electrolytes which allow small amount of electricity to flow through them and are partially dissociated in aqueous solution are called weak electrolytes. What is a chemical bond? A chemical bond may be defined as the force of attraction between any two atoms in a molecule to maintain stability. What is electrovalent or ionic bond? The chemical bond formed between two atoms by transfer of one or more electrons from the atom of a metallic, electropositive, element to an atom of a nonmetallic, electronegative, element is called an electrovalent or ionic bond. What is covalent bond? The chemical bond that is formed between two combining atoms by mutual sharing of one or more pair of electrons is called a covalent bond. What is modern periodic law? The modern periodic law is stated as, the physical and chemical properties of elements are the periodic functions of their atomic number. What are periodicity of elements? The properties that reappear at regular intervals, or in which there is gradual variation, i.e. increase or decrease, at regular intervals, are called periodic properties, and the phenomenon is known as the periodicity of elements. What are typical elements? The third period elements are typical elements. They are sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine. What are orbits? Electrons revolve around the nucleus in certain definite circular paths called orbits. What is an alkali? An alkali is a compound which, when dissolved in water, yields hydroxyl ions, OH-, as the only negatively charged ions. What is a base? A base is either a metallic oxide or a metallic hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide, which reacts with hydronium ions of an acid to form salt and water only. What is ionization energy? Ionization energy, also called ionization potential, is the amount of energy required to remove an electron from an isolated atom or molecule. What is bond energy? Bond energy is the amount of energy required to break 1 mole of chemical bonds. What is bond length? Bond length is the average distance between the nuclei of two atoms that share a bond. What is buffer of a liquid? A liquid that resists change in pH when an acid or base is added. What is valency? Valency is defined as combining power of an element with other atom to form chemical bond. Valency refers to electron in outer shell of an atom. What is meant by valence electron? Valence electrons are the electrons in the outermost shell or energy level of an atom. For example, oxygen has 6 valence electrons, 2 in the 2 subshell and 4 in the 2p subshell. What are allotropes? When an element exists in more than one crystalline form, those forms are called allotropes. The 2 most common allotropes of carbon are diamond and graphite. What are isotopes? Atoms with the same number of protons but different numbers of neutrons are called isotopes. What are isobars? Isobars are atoms of different elements with different atomic numbers but have the same mass number. What are radicals? A radical is known as an atom, molecule, or ion which has an unpaired valence electron in it, which makes radicals chemically very reactive. Therefore, a radical ion is a kind of free radical that carries a charge, which are 2 types of radical ions. What are strong acids? A strong acid is an acid which is completely ionized in an aqueous solution. Hydrogen chloride, HCl, ionizes completely into hydrogen ions and chloride ions in water. What are weak acids? A weak acid is an acid that ionizes only slightly in an aqueous solution. Acetic acid, found in vinegar, is a very common weak acid. What are strong bases? A base which completely ionizes in water and produces a large amount of hydroxide ions. What are weak bases? A base which is partially ionized in water and produces a small amount of hydroxide ions.